I think one of the reasons we get into business in the first place is to have freedom, to be able to own our own schedule, own our time, have flexibility. And there's that age old adage of you trading your 9 to 5 for a 24/7. And it is the hard reality of being responsible for all of it. You can't clock in and clock out. But I think we all want something that we're unfortunately not going to get by default. And we tend, not everybody, but we tend to overwork. We tend to just keep going at a pace that if you're honest with yourself, you cannot keep up. So a lot of times on this show, I'm trying to unpack what's behind all of this so that we can actually live the life we want to live. So in this episode, we're going to talk about some of the hard things, but don't get down, don't get negative. I'm not going to come down on you. I'm going to share where I and Shay have struggled with this, but we want to identify the 4 things, the 4 hidden driving forces that tend to secretly drive us to hustle, to push, to grind, to not stop when we probably should stop. And as someone who's reached a lot of success that I never thought I would reach, I realize it doesn't go away just by becoming more successful. So we need to address these 4 things. And my hope in this episode is that you will see the 1 or 2 that is driving you so we can kick it in the butt. We can replace it with something healthier so that you can reach your goals, but also have the time and the flexibility and freedom that you crave. Let's discuss. Welcome back to the show. I have my lovely bride here with me again. Shay is back for another episode. We're going to continue to unpack some of these things that Shay and I are wrestling with as business owners. She is a multi-6-figure business owner in her own right. She runs socialsquares.com. And we're going to talk about how we have struggled with these things. There's 4 reasons, real reasons why we can't stop working as a culture, as business owners, and things that have plagued Shay and I that we are constantly fighting. So we're going to unpack those 4 for you. This is not preaching at you. This is just like airing our dirty laundry, basically, in hopes that something resonates with you.
We're airing your dirty laundry. We're not airing any of my dirty laundry. I just want to be very clear about that.
I like to use we, so I feel better that it's not just me that struggles in these areas. But before we jump into that,
my ish together, Graham.
Whatever you want to believe. If you want to believe that, that's fine. That's fine. I'll paint you in a rosy picture. She is my better half. But practically speaking, before we get into these, one of the things that does help Shay and I have more freedom and have more flexibility with our time is that we've set up businesses that are passive income businesses. Shay has a subscription model in her business. I have a subscription model as well as a lot of evergreen content that leads to funnels. And so while not being 100% hands off, we still show up and do work. It is very scalable passive income. And so what I want to do in today's episode is give you a tool, a resource that you can go and figure out how to build passive income in your business if you haven't already, or start a business from scratch that is this passive income model. It's my free passive income workshop where I'll teach you how to make your first $1,000 a month in just 30 minutes a day if that's all you have to chip away at it. It's an incredible 45-minute training, a lot of didactic stuff, what tools I'm using, free and paid, scripts you can copy and swipe to build out your own business, and literally what to do first, second, and third, and how it all fits together. Just go to grahamcochrane.com/workshop if you want to watch it. I'm going to link to it in the description below. So open that up in a separate tab and go watch it after this episode. grahamcochrane.com/workshop. So short of having passive income, which is a great tool, practically speaking, the human element, Shay, still is there. And you and I both have passive income businesses. And yet we still struggle with whether it's on a daily basis or seasonally, where it's like we can't shut it off. And it plagues us. We talked about in an episode last week about how sometimes at the dinner table, we can't stop talking about work because that's still us nonstop working in our minds, even if we're not in the office. And so just real quick, before we jump into the 4 things that are driving overwork and have driven it for us, can you just explain like the feeling you want to feel as a business owner and as my wife and the feeling that you don't like feeling where if we're both prone to this overwork?
Oh, yeah. You know, for me, it comes down to I want to be personally satisfied that I did a good job. I did what I could do. And now I'm able to step away from my desk, close my office door, and really disconnect and show up all the way in the rest of my life. Like, I want to feel good about what I accomplished. I want to feel like I'm making progress. I'm making a difference in the world. I led my team well. But then I want to be able to shut it down and go live the rest of my life, go have fun with friends, go show up, sit on my kid's floor and play without still thinking about how I should have, sent that other email. So that's what I want. What I don't love that I fall into is when I take work with me. I'm not satisfied. I can't say, that was enough. Maybe it went the way I wanted. Maybe it didn't, but that was enough for today. I'm done. It's 4:00. It's 5:00. And now I'm coming down and I can step into joy and being fully present. And if I can't do that, it's because I've carried work with me. I'm thinking about it. I'm still stressing over it. I'm losing sleep at night. I'm cooking dinner and you're trying to tell me about your day and I'm half listening and I'm half wrestling over a work relationship or something that I wish I'd done differently, or I'm trying to solve a problem. I go to bed exhausted. I wasn't there with the family. I missed out on opportunities for fun. We could go for a walk and all I talk about is work. I mean, I hate that. I hate it. And because we've built lives where we've put boundaries around work and life, we feel it, right? That's not a normative experience in our house. So the second that happens, it's like miserable for everyone. So we're in a constant tension to fight against that. I'll stop there.
Yeah, it's real. And I feel the same way too. I'm a guy that's literally got a show teaching you how to work less and live more. And if I come home and find myself like just trying to solve a puzzle in my business or like freaking out about like where are the next 6 months going to go, or what's this thing happening here? And if I find myself like I'm sick of hearing myself talk about it, and when I'm talking about it, it's an outpouring of the stress I feel, or I'm still working in my mind. I'm very like hard on myself, but I'm like judging myself. Like, what is wrong with you? You're the work less guy and you're not mentally shutting it off. This isn't what you even want or what you even teach other people to do. And so we want to, Shay's taught this material to some of her students and clients, and it's really, really powerful. We wanted to bring it to you here because this is real. These are the 4 things that have kept us working either longer hours, like literally not stepping away from your desk when you should, or mentally stewing on something and you cannot step away mentally from the office. And we both hate it. And if you've ever felt that, then you are going to want to identify these 4 potential hidden driving forces so that we can stop and make a different choice.
A few other quick warning signs so that because people's version of what does overwork mean can be different. I only work 16 hours a week. So overwork for me means like 17 hours or 18 hours. So we're not trying to define what overwork looks like for you, but are you able to step away from your desk and eat a meal? Like, do you sit down and just like go hard for 9 hours and you can't even peel yourself away to like stretch or take a walk or eat a meal, eat lunch? And then can you take vacation? That'd be another indicator. Like, are you able to take a few days off? Are you able to take a week off, 2 weeks off? Those are just some other like quick indicators of, am I working? Is something happening that I'm not eating, stepping away from my desk? Or a third thing would be if you're pushing yourself way past your energy levels. So, there's a lot of fascinating science out there about our like peak performance times, and everyone's different. Maybe you're morning, maybe you're night person. But I notice overwork and I notice myself being driven by these 4 things when I'm just pushing myself past my like best time for showing up. Like your energy is just gone, but you're just pounding it out at the computer. And there's a reason. And those are the reasons that we want to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. And I would add to that, just if you keep checking your work email, or checking social media for a lot of us online business owners is really a scorecard. Like, are people liking my latest post? Or it's not just pleasure. Like a lot of people use social media. So if you find yourself constantly checking that outside of work, that's another indicator that you're overworking. That is actually work, by the way. So let's talk about them. Number 1 is fear. And to me, this is the big one. I resonate with fear as a thing that will be what drives me to keep working. So this could look like a lot of different things. You could be afraid of a lot of different things. You could be running from something. You could be running towards something. So I have a high value of security financially, right? And so for me, there's always a low level fear of, because when we were broke and we were on food stamps, and that's like burned in my brain as like so traumatic. And it felt like, not only was it not fun to not have money and scary, but it was almost like a value statement or judgment against me as a man and provider, that I don't ever want to be in that situation again. So even if things are really good financially, there is still a fear in the back of my mind. What if it all goes away, Graham? What if your business shuts down? What if you fall out of favor? What if the algorithm stops sending you leads? What if everything just changes and it falls apart? And so it's a whisper, but it is there. And that, I think, is what drives me sometimes to be like, okay, things are good, but never be okay. Don't get comfortable, even if things are good, because they might not be good next year. And I'm never like overly confident in the business. I err on the other side to a detriment, fear of it running out.
And I think some people have experienced that. Like we have like a season of life where money was just really tight. I mean, you and I used to budget off of $2,000 a month, I think was like our original budget. So
$1,600. Yeah. $1,600 a month.
$1,600 was that first budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know what it feels like to be ultra tight, where you're literally taking a calculator with you to the grocery store and you're having to add up the cost of spaghetti plus tax, so that when you get to the checkout, you actually have enough money to pay them. We know what that feels like. And some people know what that feels like firsthand in their current family. But then I also see a lot of people that are running from their past, like their family of origin. If they grew up in a home where there were a lot of financial struggles, a lot of financial tension, maybe they saw their parents' marriage just, wrecked by money arguments. Maybe they grew up always afraid that they were like one bill away from disaster, or, one small financial emergency away from being out on the streets. I think when we go through something like that as a child, it really shapes us. And so it could be that your financial situation as adults in your current, family is fine, but there's a part of you that's running from your childhood experience of like, I never want to feel like that. And I never want my kids to feel like that. I mean, you'll hear a lot about that. Like, I never want my kids to feel the financial stress that I felt as a child. And so we carry that with us. If we don't deal with it, we carry it with us right into adulthood.
That's huge. Another one fear that I've struggled with is the fear of missing out on a chance or an opportunity.
Yeah, that's right.
When I started the recording revolution, my first business, I said yes to everything I could possibly say yes to, because there weren't very many invitations to do anything. So you're just like, sure, yes, I'll come on your podcast. Yes, I'll do whatever. And then obviously as your business grows, you have to have this discerning hat on. You can't say yes to everything, but there's this fear that like, if I say yes to this, will I miss out on opportunity for something better to come along? And maybe I need to keep putting out content or keep doing this like longer than I want to or more than I want to, because if I grew just a little bit more, maybe someone would notice me, or I might get invited into those circles, or since there's unlimited potential opportunities out there, it's a never ending thing that I have fallen prey to. Like this could be, and I see this with YouTubers a lot. This is an interesting subset of the population. I'll have YouTubers that make money off of ad revenue and stuff. They blow up on YouTube, coming to me, asking me questions about how to build a real business model around it. But one of the things I see that's a pattern among many of these really high profile YouTubers is a fear that this is their chance in the sun. They're like, I have to keep putting out videos because I know how fickle this could be. And they might be right. Like if I fall out of favor, like this might be my best 12 months or 18 months. So I'm just going to go hard because this might be it. And that's what's driving them. And it causes stress and fear of not doing enough while they had a chance. Well,
got to do it now.
Got to do it now. Got to do it now. John Acuff, I love John Acuff, and I was grateful to have him endorse my book. And I wrote about one of these quotes he has in his book, Start. At the end of my book, How to Get Paid for What You Know, the very last chapter is all about just like why starting now is all that matters. But why do we not start a business or start anything new? And a lot of it is fear. And he describes fear as being schizophrenic, right? There's like, it says two completely opposite things. Fear tells you that you can't do it. You'll never do it. And then at the same time, fear tells you if you're going to do it, it has to all be done now. Yeah, you have to do it and it has to be done now.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's in my experience, very real. Like either you're, I could never pull this off, or this is never going to work. Or if you believe that it could work, Well, then this is the time. Now is the time. And you must reach your goals now. You must be successful now. You must be famous now.
Yeah.
It's your one shot.
That's so real in our generation. You know what I love? I love successful entrepreneurs who are in their 50s and 60s or 70s. Also those that are like reinventing themselves or starting something new in those seasons of life. It just reminds me that I have over elevated this time of life. Like, what if my best work is ahead of me? What if my best work is when my kids are grown and out of the house and my highest contribution like is happening then in terms of like professional contribution? So it's very real.
Hold that thought, because I think that relates to the fourth driving factor as well. So we'll get to that. I love that. So fear. Is there a fear that is underneath a lot of what's motivating you to just go, 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 go? Yeah. If you haven't stopped to think about it, just try to see if you can identify something there. Might be multiple fears. Yeah. Number two, hidden driving force that like leads us to the point where we can't turn it off and can't stop walking is escape or distraction. Mm-hmm. So Shay, unpack this one, because this is real.
Yeah, this is a hard one. This is one where you gotta be willing to be really honest with yourself, because I think the reality is that for all of us at one time or another, the circumstances of life are hard. The relationships in life are hard. Marriage is hard. Parenting is hard. Your circumstantial situation is hard. And it is just, if we're being honest, it is easier to open your laptop and answer an email or deliver a client file than it is to be present with what's really going on in our lives. And that's a hard reality. And I also know that there are times, especially if you've gone through anything really traumatic, like a really traumatic loss, that work as an outlet during a particularly traumatic time can be a huge gift, because you can apply your mind to it. And that's not what I'm talking about. Work can be an enormous gift, especially if you're in the middle of very intense heartache or really trying situation. You can apply yourself to something, and that can be really a gift. But what I'm talking about is when you're avoiding your spouse because marriage is just hard. You're avoiding your kids because it's just exhausting. You're avoiding taking care of yourself. You're avoiding your mental health. You're avoiding your spiritual health. You're avoiding your emotional health by working, because it just is hard. And sometimes it's just easier to pick up your phone, check something, respond to someone on Slack, open up your laptop and get a little bit more work done than it is to dive in and give the care and investment to those other areas of life and relationship. So I think we work out of escape. We work to stay distracted from the reality of what's happening outside of work.
And that's real. And I can speak for me. When the kids were younger and home life was more challenging for both of us, but especially for Shay, because she stayed home with the kids for the most part, and bared a lot of that day to day, like just the kids don't respect their mom or dad. They're just yelling at them and I want this and throwing up on them. And it's just like, it's the most thankless hard work. When that season was at its peak is when I can think of it the most. I could come home from work, and by home, I mean, I come downstairs from my home office, I could hear them screaming downstairs, so
you
it's
never
like,
escaped the screaming.
No, you can't escape the screaming.
When you first started the business, your office was literally in the middle of the house. It was like the living room and a door, a thin, very thin door with a cutout above it, with. Oh yeah.
So all the sound could travel.
And you would sit right on the other side of that door. And we had 2 kids under the age of 3 throwing themselves against the door. I mean, that was your work environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me that I have it so good now. It's like I'm in this office and nobody bothers me. It's so peaceful. But so imagine that scenario, and I come home, and what do I want as a husband and a father? I want Shay to like fawn all over me and just say, first of all, you were so handsome. And then second of all,
how handsome you are, man. Have you gotten better looking since you left this morning?
Yes, I have.
I have been sitting here all day waiting for you to walk in this door to this clean house with this cooked dinner. And I just want to hear about your day. Yes.
I'm glad this is being recorded so I can play this back to you, because this is what I want, Shay. I want to be lauded and fawned over and respected. And I want Shay to see how awesome I am, because where am I coming from? I'm coming from, at least once the business got going, nobody cared when it started, but once it got going and I was able to make a difference in some people's lives, the way the people on the internet talk about me. Yeah. Oh, that video changed my life. Your courses helped me. You're
I'm sorry,
amazing.
are we talking past tense or are we talking modern day now?
Yeah, well, I'm
the lines are blurring.
I'm gonna bring it home. Just let me bring it home, babe. This is my show. Let me do my show. But at its peak, right? So this is true now, 100% true now. But it was really like heightened then, where I would come out of that day of feeling like all these people think I'm great. And then you look tired. You look irritated that I'm there. You're like, hey, can you just help with this stuff? And so while I understand, because I like to think I'm a sensitive, loving husband, a human being, inside the selfish ego of me is like, man, I wish Shay would like respect me like those people do. And the reality is like, they just send me their nice comments. They don't know me. They don't have to live with me. I don't have to live with them. It's so much easier when you don't have to. Exactly. But you know, if you're married and if you have kids, you know, but the reality is it's like, I would rather turn right back around and go back and interact with my YouTube followers, because they seem nicer to me right now. And it's not Shay's fault. It's just the reality of relationship is way more complex and messy. And I much prefer the cleanliness of like fan educator relationship or fan content creator relationship than dealing with the complexities of marriage. So a huge escape for me for sure is like, well, I just want to see what my Twitter following is saying about me right now, because Shay's like irritated and the kids are like, meh, you know, that's real.
I felt that when I first started the business and the kids were babies. And, you know, the way Graham alluded to, you do not feel very respected and like you're making a massive contribution to society when you're nursing 10 hours a day and changing diapers. You know, it just doesn't, you don't feel like you're a contributing member of society. You should. You are a contributing member of society, but depending on your bent, that may or may not feel like a really significant, fun day. And so for me, I found myself constantly wanting to put the baby down and go check work where I could feel competent. I didn't know what I was doing as a mom. I wanted to feel competent and capable and respected and valued for my mind, you know, not just for what I could like do for you that day. So that was a real struggle for me the first year, especially the first year of our first child, when those two things were really in tension.
And that transitions perfectly into the third driving force behind overwork, or what keeps us just like pushing. And that is identity and validation. Mm-hmm. So this is huge. Mm-hmm. Right? And Shay alluded to it, of like, even as a mother, like I'm more than just a mother. I want to be validated in the workplace or in the business place. And again, these are good things. Like the fear of me running out of money is an inherently good thing to like not want to run out of money. And, escape and distraction, I don't know if that's a good thing, but I think identity, part of our identity, if we have a business, is our contribution to the world and the impact we want to have. And that is wonderful and good. And that's why I still work. Otherwise, if we didn't have that as part of us, we just want to lay around all day and do nothing. But even the people that are super successful and could retire don't, because they love contributing and showing up in the world as part of their identity. That's a good thing. The bad thing is when that becomes the driver to push farther or harder or longer hours, or mentally staying clocked in when we shouldn't, and we don't get, it affects the other parts of our lives. So some of the questions that come up that allude to this are like, who am I if I don't blank?
Yeah. If I'm not working, who am I?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you can't answer that question, that's a good question to ask. Like if my business went away, or if your business went away for whatever reason, out of your control, who are you outside of that business?
Yeah. Do you have a sense of self apart from work?
And we see this, and Shay, you brought it up before, because I think maybe the women that follow you in your circles are more candid about it than some of the men that I know, but I'm sure it's true for both. Speak to the single man, woman who has a business and just their season of life. Like we started our business while we were married and had kids. It's just the way it fell for us, but that's not always the case. Speak to about that person that's like, well, I don't have a family. I don't have kids. Like, so why shouldn't I just keep working?
Yeah. I hear that all the time. Like either, well, I'm not married, so what else would I be doing with my time? You know, what else is there to do? I like my work. Or I'm married, but I don't have kids. And there's this, I see a lot of people that carry this mentality that all of a sudden their life will matter a bit more maybe when they have kids. And so they'll get serious about showing up in life once they have kids. But for now, I mean, they don't have kids. So why not just work and overwork? Why not work 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, 80 hours? What else would I do? And my point is always like, man, there is so much more to you than what you are doing professionally. You showing up in the lives of the people that are around you is such a bigger, broader legacy than maybe what you're going to do in your work. Also, there's just so much life to be lived. Like, what about friendships? What about trying new things? What about moving your body outside in the world? What about learning? I mean, there's so much richness to life that happens away from our laptops. Like, and you have so much more value, whether you're single, married, no kids, married with kids, you have so much more value than just what you can contribute professionally. So, I don't even know that I could fully unpack what's going on there when someone says that. Well, I guess I just might as well. I don't have kids, so I might as well. But I just want to say, like, no, you have so much more value than just whatever you're contributing within the business that you're building. You have so much more, and there's just so much more to life to be enjoyed. It's great that you love your work. It's so great. There's also so much more out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's one picture that might be helpful. I like to think of, like you listening to this, watching this, you are, a light. You are a light, and you shine a lot of wonderful things. It's the way you're designed, your personality, your background, the things that you know about, your talents, your skills. You exist as a light, and then the world is a very dark place. And so everywhere you go, you are displacing darkness with your little bit of light. And some people shine a really bright light. Some people shine a little bit of light. It doesn't matter, because the smallest light in a really dark room lights up the room. So your light is equally valuable. If you are saying that your work is who you are, which is functionally what we're doing a lot of times without realizing it, because it becomes the thing and what we want to be known by, and it drives us. I'm speaking about myself. Like, this is a battle in our home of, like, Graham wants to take over. I want to be a best-selling author and, thought leader and be on stages and blah, blah, blah. And, when will that be enough? The answer is probably never. The one reason why I want to do that is because I feel like I'm shining a light in the world in the dark place. But the interesting thing is, my work is not the light. I'm the light. So when I go to the grocery store and I'm nice to the checkout lady, I am being light in darkness, where her day might be really frustrating and everybody doesn't care about them because nobody cares. And then there's light there. When I'm at my kids' pickup line or in the morning dropping off the kids at school, and I bump into another parent and I just, hey, how's your day? What are you doing today? Light. If I go to church and talk to people, light. If I have people over for dinner, light. Like, I am the light. You are the light. Everywhere we go, we get to shine our light. Why would we limit our lives to just work as the only place we have impact and shine light? That's the thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of touches on the validation piece, but it's a little nuanced even there. Like, where are we deriving our value from as humans? Is it only through work? If we're not feeling validated in other areas of life, then maybe we need to turn some of our time and attention to asking why that might be. If you're not feeling validated at home, if you're not feeling validated in your marriage, if you're not feeling that might be worth some care. That might be worth asking, like, okay, is something going on that I am being very disrespected? And so now I'm, instead of trying to repair that area, like, for a good example would be like, if you have a home where it's okay for the kids to talk back to the parents. And so you have parents, especially moms, oftentimes bear the brunt of this, especially if the dad isn't a disciplinarian, that the moms can feel very disrespected at home. They can often be disrespected by their husbands. Husbands can also be disrespected for their wives. When that's the home environment, they are going to turn, you and I are going to turn to something else to seek that kind of validation. So if you notice that happening, then allow it to serve as a warning sign for you that, okay, there's something we need to address at home. Maybe the kids shouldn't be allowed to talk like this. Maybe we need to get some family counseling. Maybe there's too much disrespect happening between me and my spouse. We're not validating each other's strengths and contribution to the family. And so I'm seeking it from somewhere else. And we might need some help. Maybe we even need some professional help. Maybe we just need some other relationships to bring in who are doing a better job at that than we are. But it's worth noticing if there's something happening at the home, in the home life, that's causing you to seek validation in work because you're not finding it other places.
That's good. So good. Yeah. And it doesn't have to stay that way. You can make it better, but it might take some work.
Yep.
Fourth and final driving force. This is one that, Shay brought up before we went live. We actually had three. There's three core ones. And then she brought this one up.
It's only ever been three.
And it immediately resonated with me. And this is, I think, maybe more prevalent than we even realize. And that, especially in the modern age, and that is envy.
Yeah.
Envy. Seeing what someone else has and wanting it. And that could go super negative, like, I hate them for having that. Or it could be super neutral, like, gosh, why can't I have that? And it's less about them and more about, what do I have to do to get that? Either you could go self-loathing or just like, that motivates me. Like, wow, I want what he has. I want what she has. And think about how obviously prevalent this is with social media now. And this is, to be candid, one of the things that tripped me up from even starting my personal brand. I wanted to teach about business for about 3 years before I actually launched the Graham Cochrane brand. And I punted for a lot of fears and insecurities. And one of them was I didn't want to also, this sounds more noble than I really am. I didn't want to contribute to that envy, because to be a business coach, there has to be some credibility play of like, well, I've been successful in business. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how much money I've made or what I've been able to do. And I don't want to create envy for people because I know what it feels like for me. There's people that I envy, but you could be reaching your goals financially, your impact goals in your business, and be great until you see someone else who's making 2x, or their life looks even cooler, or their house. And you're like, I really liked my house, but I could have that house if I worked a little bit more.
I loved my house until I saw their house, or I loved my vacation until I saw their vacation.
That's real life. And the problem is, if you're a 9-to-5 wage employee, you'll just turn to bitterness. Like, that must be nice. If you're a business owner, the problem is you actually can go do something about it. Yeah. You could just hustle a little harder. Have that? Yeah, you could have that. If you worked a little harder, made more money, that's the danger of success as an entrepreneur. Is you can go create almost anything. So that will drive you. Be like, I could have that house, and it'll just take me harder. Exactly.
A little later, pull in a few more hours.
And this, my friend, is like, I don't know where the line is between healthy goals. Like, I don't even know my own goals, babe. Like, we talked about things we want to have and things we want to do. Like, I don't even know where the line is between a healthy goal that I want and I can shoot for. And like, it's just because you saw somebody else who has that and you were content until you saw it. And now you're like, gosh, I want that.
Yeah. It came up the other day when we were somewhere and we were walking on the beach, and it was like, why do I feel like I'm not financially successful when, like, on paper, if you use Dave Ramsey's baby steps, like, I've completed all the baby steps. Why don't I feel the contentment and the satisfaction of, like, for all intents and purposes, that is financial success. And it's just because the target moves, you have different goals. We have generosity goals. We have, just the target moves and moves and moves until you tell it not to, and you decide where enough is.
Yeah. So this is real. I mean, envy, and the question for you is, whether it's someone in particular or something in particular, have you allowed envy to creep into your life, into your heart, where you're actually chasing something that maybe you don't actually even need? A lot of things we don't need, or you don't want it bad enough for the sacrifice that it's costing you. Because there's a lot of things I want. Go for it.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, babe. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I got excited. Will you tell the story about the student of yours who had a certain financial goal and then kind of came to the realization that, oh, wow, I actually could be perfectly happy now? I think that is a lifeline for some people. Yeah.
So I have a student who has followed me for many years, and I've been able to watch his business grow from, a couple $1,000s a month, hit or miss, to really successfully, $15,000 to $18,000 a month, recurring, steady, like, incredible growth. It's been so cool. But one of the things that's been cool to watch that then was interesting in a coaching session I had with him was, the more successful he got, the bigger his sights were for what was possible in a healthy way of like, wow, I never thought this was possible. And he got excited about what else he could reach for. And one of his goals was to make $100,000 a month. Right.
Which is a lot of money.
Which is a lot of money. That's 1.2 million a year if you're trying to do the math, right? It's so he was like, that was like the big crazy goal. And he probably had reasons why. If I made that kind of money, and he's a super generous guy, he's got a big family, he's a really great dude. He probably had a lot of good things he wanted to do with it, but he had a taste. He had a taste of what's possible. And what was interesting is I remember in this coaching session, he mentioned it to me. I had him go through this exercise and what his goals were. And we talked about it. And there seemed to be some underlying stress there of like, gosh, like I'm already doing all the things I know, and I'm not anywhere close to that. So it's going to just either be a lot of time to get there, or I'm going to have to scale it with the team, or it just felt like the pressure was there. Fast forward a couple of months later, I got an email from him. And he said, I was reflecting back on sort of this life that I had painted of what I desired life to look like in a few years, this exercise I had him go through. And I realized at the time, I thought it would take $100,000 a month to live that life. And as I'm mowing my lawn, I'm thinking about all this stuff. I realized I'm living that life on only 15 to 18,000. Some people might be like, it'd be nice to have 15 to 18,000 a month. I agree. But swap out whatever number it is for you. If you're making 4,000 a month and you just wish you could make 8,000, he was like, wow, like, why did I wanted that 100,000. I don't need that. And I actually, I won the game. Like I can kind of enjoy my life now because I realized it didn't take what I thought I needed. And that was just a number, because there are people making 100,000 a month. And I can tell you, I make over 100,000 a month, and I'm like, I need to make $1 million a month. That's what I need to shoot for, because that's the people I'm following are talking about. And I'm like, wait a second, when is that going to stop? Because that guy wants to be a billionaire. So he wants to be making hundreds of million a month.
Oh, and the average business owner feels like they're not even going to be considered a success until they're making six figures, because they hear that talked about all the time. So it becomes this like arbitrary goal, and we're envious of other businesses that have gotten there, envious of other people's success, envious of the house they have, the car. Meanwhile, that may not have any part in the life the things we actually really care about, in the life that we really want to build.
Which, to your point, is why we need to be super specific about what we need first, and then what we want. Both are good. You can want things you don't need, but if you don't know what your targets are, income wise, and why, and if you don't know what kind of life you're trying to live, so that you can say, does that business goal line up with the life and the family I want to have? Because we talked about this last week, is like we put family first mentality, because there's certain things I might want in business, but they don't support the family goals or vision we have. And so, okay, I'm going to set that aside. Yep. This is where just being intentional is so much more helpful than just scrolling on social media and being like, wow, I guess I should want that and that and that, when we've never stopped to think about, is that
I want more free time and I want more money. I want a healthy family and I want six figures, Yeah.
It's hard. There's a lot being thrown at us. So it's harder now than ever before.
But bottom line, no one wants to be driven by envy. You don't want to be showing up for work because deep down inside, you're just envious of the next business owner and what they're doing, or, someone else's vacation, somebody else's house. None of us want our businesses and our motivating factor to be driven by envy. So I think we can all acknowledge like, that's not what I want to be motivated by. So if not that, what do you want to be motivated by? And are your sights set on that? Otherwise, you're going to most likely be driven by one of these four things that we've talked about today.
Yeah. And that's where we want to leave it as your reflection question for today is, of these four: fear, escape / distraction, identity and validation, or envy. If you had to say, what of those four is currently your motivating factor, your motivating force? If you're open to sharing it, leave a comment below. But even if you're not, just stop for a moment and think, which one of these is really a hidden driving force for you? And then what do you want to be motivated by? What do you want to drive you each day you show up at the office? Because we're driven by something always. So you get to choose what you want to be motivated by. Maybe you knew and you've just drifted away from it. I know I have. But maybe you've never thought about it and you just are chasing what everyone else says you should chase, because that's default also. Is we just, okay, well, that's what they say is the goal. What do you want to be motivated by? You get to decide. You get to choose. Way more fun that way. Any final thoughts, babe?
No. If they survived this entire podcast, then I'm just applauding them for showing up and doing the hard work. Listen, you don't have to be honest with us, but just if you do nothing else, be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave it in the comments, but at least do this deep work on your own time with a pen and paper.
Yep. What is currently motivating you?
Yeah.
And then what do you want to be motivated by? Write it down. Make that your reflection homework this week. I think it'll be very insightful for you. And I'm excited to hear what comes out of it for you. Well, babe, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for letting me back.
Oh, heck yeah. We'll do more. This is awesome. And everyone, thanks for checking out the episode. Enjoy. We will see you on another episode soon.